Have you ever felt like you're wasting time on unnecessary thoughts that only delay your actions? You spend hours procrastinating, wondering where to start, while your to-do list keeps growing and weighing you down. This video will help you break free from these dead-end thoughts and take action. We'll show you how to recognize procrastination moments and stop them in their tracks, how to become productive without wasting time on self-reflection and overthinking. It's important to remember, every moment counts, and once you start acting without wasting a second on doubt, you'll regain control over your life and time. In this video, we'll share powerful methods to help you tackle procrastination and focus on what matters most. If you're ready to leave doubts behind and take action, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more valuable content for you. Procrastination isn't just a habit of putting things off for later. It's a way our brain tries to avoid unpleasant tasks that cause stress or discomfort. When we face something difficult or unpleasant, our brain subconsciously looks for ways to avoid it. And the first thing it does is engage in self-doubt, overthinking, and procrastination. But there is a way to learn to recognize these moments, not give in to them, and take back control over your productivity. First, it's important to understand that procrastination is a response to stress, not just a lack of motivation. We put off tasks because we're afraid of failure, of making mistakes, of not succeeding. This is the moment when your brain starts looking for easier paths, switching to useless actions like social media, watching videos, or endlessly checking emails. As soon as you notice yourself wasting time on small distractions, you need to recognize that this is a signal of procrastination. A simple way to recognize it is by the feeling of anxiety before a task. When you start thinking about a job and immediately feel fear or tension, this could be a sign that your mind is resisting the difficult task. In those moments, it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, what exactly am I afraid of in this task? This will not only help you recognize procrastination, but also get you to start taking action. To avoid procrastination, you need to create a system that helps you instantly switch from thinking to action. This can be achieved by implementing simple practices like the Pomodoro technique, where you work in short intervals, 25 minutes, followed by a short break. This helps clear your mind and relieve the feeling of being overwhelmed. Every time you feel like you want to get distracted, set a timer and start working on the task, knowing that a break is coming soon. Over time, this will become a habit, and procrastination will no longer hold you back. An important aspect is also realizing that failures and mistakes aren't the end of the world. The fear of making mistakes often leads to procrastination because we're afraid of wasting time. But in reality, a mistake isn't wasted time. It's simply a step toward the right solution. Applying Stoic principles will help you view your actions through a lens of calmness and reason. I can't control the outcome, but I can control my process. This philosophy helps you free yourself from the fear of failure and take action without overthinking. Another effective method for fighting procrastination is proper planning. Break big tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. When a task seems too difficult, it's easier to fall into procrastination because your brain doesn't see an end and refuses to begin. But when you break it down into smaller parts, it becomes much easier. Each small action you complete builds your confidence and helps develop discipline. If you want to stop procrastinating, start with the simplest step and keep moving forward, regardless of potential setbacks or delays. The key is to recognize, if you notice signs of procrastination, it's not a reason for despair. It's a signal to take action. This is the moment when you need to take control and direct your energy towards solving the task, not overthinking and self-reflection. Stoicism is a philosophy that teaches us to accept the fact that we can't control everything in life, but we can control our reactions and choices. This is the fundamental principle that influences productivity. If we learn to apply Stoicism in our daily lives, we can free ourselves from excessive thinking and focus on actions that lead to results. One of the most important principles of Stoicism is the idea of controlling our emotions. Stress, anxiety, and the fear of failure. These emotions can paralyze us and prevent us from acting. However, if we accept them as natural reactions that we can control, we free ourselves from their power. Stoics teach us to realize that we can't control external circumstances, but we can choose how to react to them. For example, imagine a situation where you face a difficult task that causes you to fear failure. You start thinking that you won't succeed and put off the work. But if you apply a Stoic attitude, you realize that it's not the end of the world. It's just a task that requires effort, and how you react to it depends entirely on you. Stoics say, it's not so much what happens to us, but how we respond to it that matters. This internal control allows you to act without overthinking, even when external circumstances seem challenging. Furthermore, Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what we can control. Often, we waste time worrying about things that are out of our power, such as other people's opinions, the results of our efforts, or circumstances that we can't change. Stoics say that this is pointless. Instead of spending time worrying, we should focus on what depends on us: our actions, our reactions, our work. This doesn't mean that we should ignore external problems, but we must understand that they can't stop us if we control how we respond to them. Stoicism also teaches us minimalism, doing less, but doing it better. This is an important point for productivity. When you reduce the number of things demanding your attention, you become more focused. Stoics advise us not to overload ourselves with tasks, but to make space for what is truly important. In modern life, we often try to do many things at once, but this overload actually hinders our productivity. Stoics call for the rationalization of our efforts, focusing on what really matters. As a result, productivity doesn't lie in doing more, but in doing better and with full attention. These Stoic principles, when applied in practice, can become a powerful tool in the fight against procrastination. When we stop fearing failure, when we focus on what we can control, and when we simplify our lives, we act with confidence and without excessive thinking. The fear of failure is a powerful force that keeps us trapped in procrastination. We're afraid of wasting time, making mistakes, or that our efforts will be in vain. But this fear paralyzes us and prevents us from moving forward. Instead of taking steps, we stay stuck, overthinking possible failures. This is where Stoicism comes into play. It teaches us that failure is not a catastrophe, but a part of the path to success. Stoics argue that it's not about avoiding failure, but about how we respond to it. When we fear making mistakes, we're actually fearing learning. We avoid mistakes, but it's these very mistakes that lead to growth and development. To overcome this fear, we need to realize that mistakes are inevitable. It's important not to shy away from them, but to see them as opportunities for improvement. Imagine you want to start a new project, but you feel fear at the thought of possible failure. This fear stops you, and you start wondering what will happen if it doesn't work out, so you put it off for later. The Stoics would suggest this. Instead of focusing on the potential negative outcomes, focus on the process. What can you do right now to move closer to your goal? Just starting with the first step will be enough. Stoics teach us that our goal is not the final result, but the process itself. When we focus on the process, the fear of failure fades because we understand that failures are just part of the journey. Moreover, it's important to remember that failure is not what defines us. We don't become failures because of one mistake. We are the sum of all our actions. Stoics say, challenges and mistakes are not evil if we perceive them correctly. When we change our attitude toward failure, we start acting faster, with less overthinking, because we stop fearing. Psychologically, it's also important to learn not to give too much weight to future failures. Often, we fear what might happen, and in that process, we waste an enormous amount of energy. Stoics advise us to live in the present, not worry about the future, and not suffer from past mistakes. This allows us to act with clarity and determination without getting distracted by those thoughts that scare us. By overcoming the fear of failure, we free ourselves from the chains of procrastination. We begin to take steps despite potential risks, and it's this that leads us to success. Stoics taught us that it doesn't matter how many times we fall. What matters is how we rise and keep moving forward. One of the main reasons for procrastination and low productivity is improper attention management. We spend too much time on tasks that don't yield significant results, while those that are truly important get pushed aside. All these little things that demand our attention make us feel busy. But in reality, they just distract us from what really matters. So how do we avoid this trap and learn to focus on what's important? The first step is realizing that not all tasks are equally important. We often spend time on actions that seem urgent, but in reality, they don't hold much value for our long-term goals. To handle this, we must learn to prioritize. One simple and effective method is the Eisenhower matrix, which helps categorize tasks into 4 categories: important and urgent, important and not urgent, not important and urgent, not important and not urgent. It's important to focus only on tasks that fall into the first category. Everything else can either be delegated or postponed for later. It's also crucial to remember the Stoic approach to tasks. Stoics teach us that we should focus on what depends on us and discard everything else. Sometimes we waste time worrying about things we can't change, such as expecting others to work as efficiently as we do, or about how others perceive us. Stoics suggest that we should concentrate only on tasks we can control and not waste energy on futile concerns. This understanding helps free our minds for what really matters. Another key strategy is learning to say no. We can't be productive if we're constantly responding to requests that don't align with our goals and priorities. Stoics argue that someone who says yes to everything loses control over their life. It's important to set clear boundaries to protect your time, and this doesn't mean being indifferent or rude. On the contrary, it means that you respect yourself and understand the value of your time. To focus on what matters, it's essential to minimize distractions. Create a workspace where nothing will pull your attention away. Turn off notifications on your phone, set the Do Not Disturb mode in apps, and make sure nothing disrupts your flow of work. This helps you concentrate on the task at hand rather than splitting your attention between multiple things. For example, imagine you have an important project that requires your full concentration, but you're constantly checking your phone, replying to messages, and switching between tasks. The result? Instead of finishing the project, you end up wasting time on small things that don't bring you any closer to your goal. Stoics teach us to minimize these distractions because our mind is a precious resource and it should be directed toward what truly matters. The problem is that most people tend to spend time on secondary tasks because they seem less complicated and more manageable. But this is exactly the path that leads to the endless cycle of busyness, where you never truly reach the goals that really matter. Productivity isn't about doing as much as possible, it's about doing what's important with full commitment. For this, use the 80-20 rule, or Pareto principle. 80% of the results come from 20% of the efforts. This means you need to focus your time and energy on the 20% of tasks that will yield the greatest results. In this context, Stoics advise us to be pragmatic. Don't aim to do everything, focus on what truly matters. To learn to focus on the main task, you need to develop the habit of discipline and clearly divide time for each task. It's important to create a system where each task has its place and you know exactly what to do at any given moment. This is the key to maximum productivity and preventing energy from being wasted on unnecessary tasks. Discipline is perhaps one of the most powerful tools on the path to success. Without discipline, we cannot systematically move toward our goals because a lack of regularity and consistency leads to inefficiency. Discipline is what helps us combat procrastination, preventing emotions and desires from distracting us from what truly matters. It's the mechanism that keeps us on the right track, even when motivation fades or the temptation to put things off arises. Stoics emphasize the importance of self-control and inner strength. They teach us that discipline is not punishment, but an essential element of freedom. Only when we are disciplined can we freely manage our time and resources. When we have a clear structure and goal, we don't waste time on doubts and worries. We act with confidence, knowing that every step we take brings us closer to our goal. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or working long hours. It's about sticking to certain principles in everyday life. It means rejecting the distractions that take us away from what's important. It means staying on the path, despite difficulties and setbacks. Stoics argue that inner discipline is the foundation of everything. If we can control our thoughts and emotions, if we can do what we must, despite external circumstances, we gain true freedom. An example of discipline can be found in the lives of great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius. He was no exception among those surrounded by comfort and distractions, but despite all this, he was able to stay focused on his goals and duties. Every day, he wrote his reflections and meditations, which not only helped him maintain inner discipline, but also strengthened his self-awareness. To develop discipline, you need to start with small steps. Begin with small changes that you can make every day. This could be, for example, setting clear goals for the day and sticking to a schedule. Gradually, you'll notice how these actions begin to become part of your life, and discipline will become a natural state. Improving productivity isn't just about theoretical knowledge of time management and self-motivation. To truly start taking action, it's important to use concrete practices and strategies that will help you develop the habit of working effectively and without overthinking. The first thing to implement in your daily life is creating a clear and specific task list. Using a list helps not only organize your day, but also keeps procrastination in check. When a task is written down, it already has a clear form, and your brain can't escape it by overthinking what needs to be done. It's important that the tasks on your list are broken down into small, manageable steps that can be completed in one work block. Less stress, more productivity. This approach will help you avoid the feeling of being overwhelmed when faced with a huge project. Another important element is the principle of first things first. Tackle the hardest task. When you decide to start the day with the most difficult task, you eliminate the stress that can arise if you leave hard tasks for later. This isn't just a motivational technique, it's a proven way to optimize your time. Stoics taught that it's important not to fear difficulty and to immediately tackle the things that require the most effort. When you finish the hardest task, the rest of the work feels much easier. Another technique that works great for boosting productivity is the principle of working with full concentration. There are several methods for this. For example, the Pomodoro technique, which we've already mentioned. You set a timer for 25 minutes and work without interruption. After that, you take a short break, then get back to work. By working with full concentration for short periods of time, you give yourself the opportunity to rest and recharge. Don't forget about rest. Often we think that if we work non-stop, we'll get more done. However, this only leads to burnout. The human brain isn't designed for continuous work without breaks. That's why it's important to build pauses for recovery into your schedule. Stoics said that rest isn't a luxury, but a necessity for maintaining high productivity and mental resilience. Take a few minutes to stop, take a deep breath, and relax. This will restore your concentration and increase your effectiveness. Additionally, one of the key habits for productivity is working on the principle of less is more. This means consciously limiting the number of tasks you work on simultaneously. Multitasking is a trap that reduces work efficiency. It's better to complete one task 100% than to juggle several tasks without finishing any of them. When you focus on one task, you spend the least amount of time and energy on it because you're not switching between different types of activities. Moreover, it's important to remember that productivity shouldn't be overdone. You're not a robot, and you need to respect your internal limits. Stoics taught us that it's essential to be honest with ourselves and not try to do more than we are capable of. Learn to plan your days so that there's room for recovery and reflection. When you're balanced and calm, you're far more productive than when you're constantly stressed. For the practical implementation of all these ideas, it's also essential to work on your habits. Write down what you want to change and regularly track your progress. It's important to maintain discipline, but it's equally important to recognize that small victories on the way to greater productivity are already significant achievements. Stop procrastinating and start taking action today. One of the most effective ways to boost productivity is the art of planning. When you not only understand what needs to be done, but also know in advance how you're going to do it, your chances of success increase significantly. But an important point is to make sure that the planning process doesn't turn into a new form of procrastination. So how do you plan correctly without getting stuck in unnecessary thinking and start taking action? First, it's important to understand that planning isn't just making a to-do list. It's a system that helps you move forward, knowing exactly what you need to do and when. To start planning without anxiety, you need to follow a few principles that will help you overcome internal doubts and become more confident in your actions. The first rule is to set clear, specific goals. For example, instead of writing "work on the project," write the introduction for the project, or create an action plan for the project. Specificity helps eliminate the uncertainty that causes anxiety. When tasks are broken down in detail, you get a full picture of what needs to be done and a sense of control. Next, it's important to break tasks down into smaller steps. The smaller the task, the easier it is to tackle, and the less pressure there will be on your mind. This reduces anxiety and helps prevent procrastination. Break complex tasks into 3 to 5 steps and tackle each one sequentially. The next stage is to create time frames for each task. Time is what makes us feel a sense of urgency. Without deadlines, we often procrastinate, thinking we have more time. Set clear time limits for each step. For example, write the introduction in 30 minutes. This way you won't get lost in thoughts and will be able to complete the task within the given time frame. Stoics also teach us not to waste time worrying about the future, but to simply act in the present moment. When we start thinking about potential problems and make the task seem more complicated, it leads to anxiety and, as a result, procrastination. To avoid overwhelming yourself with thoughts of possible failures, focus only on the next step. What can you do right now? What's the simplest and quickest step you can take to begin? When you start planning this way, every step becomes achievable, and anxiety fades because you know everything is under control. Planning, in this case, becomes not a source of stress, but a tool to simplify and structure your actions. Don't forget that even the best plan can be changed. Stoics taught us to be flexible and to accept any changes that arise. Life doesn't always go according to our plan, and that's okay. When you learn to adapt your plans to new circumstances, you stop fearing potential setbacks and can work with less anxiety. So now, you have all the necessary tools to boost your productivity and start taking action without wasting time on doubts and overthinking. Procrastination and the fear of failure will no longer hold you back once you learn to recognize them early and control your reactions. With the principles of Stoicism, such as focusing on what's within your control and embracing the inevitability of mistakes, you can act with confidence and calm, which will significantly increase your productivity. Don't forget about discipline, which helps maintain focus and avoid distractions. It's important to follow a clear plan, avoiding task overload, and to start your day with the hardest tasks. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because each step is a lesson that brings you closer to success. Remember, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what truly matters with full commitment. Less thinking, more doing. Over time, these habits will become a part of your life, and you'll move toward your goals with confidence and without unnecessary stress. If you like these tips, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more valuable videos for you. Share your thoughts in the comments. What techniques have you already implemented in your life? And which ones would you like to try? See you in the next video.